So the big question is, what really are going to be the options for Sheikh Hasina? As we were just telling you, Sheikh Hasina had suggested, or at least sources are suggesting, that her first priority was to go across to the UK. However, the Home Department of United Kingdom has made it very clear that there is no policy for anyone to reach their shores and then seek asylum. That it is usually the case where whoever flees their own nation seeks asylum in the nation that they first have landed in, the first safe nation that they have managed to reach. So let me go across to someone who really understands what may be the situation in Bangladesh and what could be the way forward for Sheikh Hasina as well as a nation of Bangladesh. Joining us today, Ambassador Humayun Kabir. He is the former Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh. Thank you so much, Ambassador Kabir, for joining us here on the show. We can understand this must be a very stressful time for you. You've been part of the dispensation as well. What's happening in Bangladesh right now? Let's start with that. What is going to be the way forward? Any ray of hope in the midst of this looting, the plunder that we have seen, the chaos and the anarchy that we can see on our screens?
Well, there is no anarchy, I can assure you. You have asked the question, what is happening? I think a couple of things have happened. For example, as discussed among the President, Army Chief, or other Army Armed Forces leaders, civil society, student leaders, based on the consensus reached yesterday, the Parliament has been dissolved today at around 3 o'clock. So that's the step number one. The second step was that they are discussing the idea about a caretaker government or interim government, whatever you call it.
Right.
And the student leaders have proposed the name of Professor Muhammad Yunus, who is globally known, as we all know him as well. So that is another development. And now, if that takes place, then that would be the next stage. And in terms of going forward, election, they are talking about a possible election down the line. But in terms of what you have said at the later part of your discussion, there is no anarchy here. I can only tell you this, that today there is no curfew, offices, schools, shops, everything has started operating from this morning. And there has been some instances, but yesterday, but I can tell you what has happened or how people are dealing with that issue or dealing with that challenge. Number one, the military has given the names of their officers posted throughout the country with their telephone numbers. So anybody affected or anybody feeling at risk, they can contact them and support or assistance would go.
Ambassador Humayun Kabir, sorry to interrupt you, but isn't it true that leaders of the previous dispensation, those who are loyalists of Sheikh Hasina, today fear for their own lives, that there are former councillors also who are being killed in daylight? And this is something that the Bangladesh media has been reported.
Well, I can tell you that the student leaders, those who are in control or who actually was the driver behind that, they have called everybody to shun violence, not to create chaos, and not to attack anybody. And they have asked for a kind of patience for everybody. That's from the student leaders.
Okay.
From the army side, they have yesterday said the army chief has called for peace, calm, and maintaining the communal harmony. And I can also tell you that the student leaders themselves have advised all their units throughout the country to maintain peace. And I can assure you, you can see the pictures are on the net, that the students are protecting the temples, churches, and all of the religious places, and also they're protecting the properties of the minority communities or those who are at risk. Now, I must tell you what you say that, it was a kind of, you can say, popular uprising. So when that happens, and it has taken place in the context of last 15 years of, if I say 15 years of, you can say, a difficult situation. It was a non-democratic dispensation, authoritarian kind of rule, and so on and so forth. And some of the information that are now coming out in the public, those are really dreadful. I can only tell you that. So one has to understand the context, and then compare some of these difficulties that we have been facing for the last 24 hours.
Well, yes. Although you say that there are student protesters who are actually trying to protect temples, I think Ambassador Humayun Kabir, you're well aware of the fact that there have been several temples, ISKCON temples, Kali mandirs, farms of Hindus which have also been targeted indiscriminately. But that aside, what is very interesting in your previous answer that you have talked about the student leaders. We know that the army says that it is in control. We know that there is Jamaat-e-Islami, which is playing a very active role right now in Bangladesh. And of course, you have the fourth power center right now, which is that of the centrist right movement, which we have seen. The centrist right party. And it's going to be interesting to see how will the four power centers now come together. Is that too many cooks spoiling the broth? What's going to be the way forward to try and reconcile all four of them who today had come together to oust Sheikh Hasina? But can they come together to share power?
Well, there are consultations going on among all the parties, and even I think right now President is discussing with all the stakeholders. The army is there, political parties is there, then the student leaders are there. But I think there is a kind of you can say understanding that all must come together and try to reconcile their positions. But we have to understand this is something, an unusual situation. We have not. It doesn't happen every day. So it has to. A structure that was there for 15 years have completely broken down. So now we have to rebuild the whole structure, and also in the process some hiccups could be there. But my sense is that all major stakeholders, I would say rather, all the stakeholders are in agreement that they should move forward peacefully and in an inclusive manner.
Ambassador Humayun Kabir, before I let you go, what next for Sheikh Hasina? What's the best case scenario? We believe that she's trying to get asylum in several of the countries. She's in talks with Finland, Belgium, we hear, United Kingdom. That seems a bit unlikely. But the fact that Sheikh Hasina is currently in India, what does it augur for the ties between the Indian dispensation and the new dispensation which is likely to come up?
Well, Bangladesh and India, we are neighbors. So I think it is the relationship between government to government and people to people. So I think our relationship is much more enduring than a person, for example. So, I mean, I don't know. I can respond to the question that you have asked about Sheikh Hasina. I mean, it is her choice. So I have no comment on that. But I think that on the Indian side, if I have read the statement made by Foreign Minister Jaishankar, and having listened to various discussions in India, there is an appreciation that, well, we are neighbors, we have to maintain our relationship, we have to work with each other, and that I think would be a good idea. And since Bangladesh is now facing a kind of transition, a little bit of hiccup, I think as a friendly neighbor, we expect Indian understanding from the Indian leaders, and also as much as support they can help us to stabilize the situation and move forward, because that's our mutual interest.
Absolutely. It's of mutual interest that the turmoil in Bangladesh comes to an end and there's a peaceful resolution. Even if there is a transition of power, it is peaceful. Thank you so much, ever so much, Ambassador Humayun Kabir, for joining us here on the show. With that, we're going to be slipping into a short break. But of course, the latest perspective, the latest developments coming in from Bangladesh and what it impacts and how it impacts India is going to be our top focus. Stay tuned.